Hi everyone, welcome to QA Tech Talks and welcome to the first Lean Coffee Talk session with Nachum Dimer from Israel. Nachum is a CEO and co-founder of CloudBeat.io and Oxygen IDE. Nachum has about 20 years of experience in software enterprise development and QA. In today's agenda, Nachum will be talking about modern testing, cloud testing, and how the transition of automation evolved. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the chat, put in the chat box. And about you, Nahum, could you please share about our background and how and our testing journey?
I have quite non-standard, I would say, background for somebody who is in testing field. I actually started with a software engineer, so I am a software engineer in my background. I started programming. It always starts in childhood. So I started programming when I was really probably 12 or 13. But this is for maybe for another session. And actually, I started my career in the Israeli Air Force as a programmer. Then I quickly moved to commercial projects. We created one of first kind of PayPal back in '99. So more e-commerce, and I moved to enterprise software. And so I was programmer up until 2006. When I decided to move to anything which is not programming, because I was just tired to sit all day in front of computer, and it happened to be by complete chance that I moved to work as a pre-sale manager into a company called Broadview. And Broadview in 2006 was one of leading vendors of testing tools. And this is how I got to the testing world. So by complete incident. And pretty quickly I realized that actually it's a big benefit where you're coming from more software engineering or programming background, and you kind of, many could think it's kind of downgrade, but I don't think it so. When you're coming back to testing, it's actually a huge advantage because you're bringing a significant technological background, and then you can really impact or the work you make can really significantly impact and change and optimize things that otherwise typically would stay the same. And so I for 2 years I've been working for Broadview, and I learned a lot from this. I learned testing the market both from tool perspective, from human resources perspective, from people perspective. And then I created my own consultancy business. And so for the last probably 15 years, I've been consulting various, mostly medium and large companies, how to create test automation infrastructure and process, and how to create a load testing infrastructure and process. And so I've been in this field already over 15 years. And actually for last 5 years, I founded alongside my other two founders a company called CloudBeat, where we basically revolutionized the testing market from tool perspective and from generally attitude perspective. And so we created a number of tools based on Selenium and Appium and other open source solutions. And so this is my main business and main thing which I'm investing my time in. But again, I'm pretty much working closely with my colleagues from other companies, and think I can contribute few insights. Well, let's see what you will ask.
Thank you. Thanks for the details. You mentioned you're a CEO of and co-founder of
Correct.
CloudBeat.io. So could you please share the how you started the journey of CloudBeat.io?
Sure. So the journey started from actually a pain that I saw among many of my customers. So as I mentioned, I had a consulting business, and I work with many large, both Israeli and international companies. And the repeating pattern I started to see over last probably decade is that many companies were in transition between manual testing to test automation, but they had a difficult both from process perspective. It's a whole mindset change from moving away from very well-defined process of how you test software manually to something which is much more agile today and much more dynamic of test automation, not just test automation per se, because test automation per se exists for good probably 20 years, but more I would say modern test automation, which means the process which supports agile software development, supports DevOps processes. This is a completely different story that we haven't used to do before. And many companies are lost in this process. And they are lost in this process on two main points. First, how I actually skill or how I educate my current personnel to use test automation and basically to contribute and to manage the whole test automation process. So basically how I create tests in both human resource efficient and time efficient manner. So this is, I think, one of points where many organizations have difficulty. The second is, okay, I have now a lot of test automation, but how I get value from it. So how I run it in a stable way and how I analyze results quickly enough to be in line with my DevOps and Agile process. Because what I saw many organizations running automation processes, but then if your tests fail, it takes you much more longer time to analyze that sometimes manual tester would do. And this is obviously a kind of anomaly which we don't want to have, right? Because we invest so much in test automation, it actually needs to speed up a bottom line. So it means that at the bottom line, I need to be ideally automatically to be able to answer the question why my test fail and what the risk is for organization. And if I need to spend significant manual time analyzing it, then this is a big problem. And so when I saw these two issues, then I decided that there is a place to change the world of testing and make an impact and create a new set of tools that solve these problems. And so I implemented all my best knowledge and experience in those tools, again, of course, alongside our fantastic team. And so basically what Cloudbee does, Cloudbee is an intelligent testing platform which allows you to orchestrate tests. So if you don't have tests, you can write test cases. But the main point of Cloudbee is that it can run and analyze significant amount of tests and give you impact analysis in a matter of seconds. And this is, I think, much more important impact that we do because we really allow to align the speed of testing with the speed of development and speed of deliveries that companies want to be mainly in digital world, of course, but not just.
Thanks, Nahum, for sharing your testing journey and about CloudBeat.io. And I have gone through your LinkedIn profile and CloudBeat.io website. Could you please share about the background about CloudBeat.io, Oxygen ID, and your journey with the enterprise industry?
Basically, when we started CloudBeat, we already worked a lot with open source tools, and we to extend and invest their time and money into creating tools for a community and helping out the community to cope the issues and grow. And so we were already big fans of Selenium, of course, and then was initially also Appium, started to get momentum and many other open source tools. And when we started CloudBeat, we wanted to also to contribute to our community, testing community and development community. And the way we thought we can do it, we created one of our products, we created as an open source. So I think, as I mentioned, many companies still struggle to create automation tests in time efficient manner. And so we decided that we want to contribute in this field, and we created an open source project called Oxygen, oxygenhq.org, that basically allows any type of testers, manual testers, automation testers, reliability engineers, doesn't matter, programmers, from any scale of or skill set that you have. It allows you to write automation tests in a matter of really minutes. And most important, I think, create really well-crafted test automation process based on this tool. It means, to create a proper validation point. It means to create a data-driven testing. It means to use best practices like page object pattern, business-oriented processes, and so on and so forth. Because test automation, many think it's just about writing some few clicks that I open the browser, I do a few clicks, and already I'm done. Yeah, I already wrote a sustainable test automation script. But it's not. I mean, test automation not about just making a few clicks. This is the easy part. Test automation is much more about supporting the existing quality process in organization and being able to support other key stakeholders in your organization, delivering them quality metrics. So, when we do some clicks or we do some API calls, it's just a way we do to support all this. So it's very important that the tool you use will actually support your process, your other tool chain, and your key stakeholders. And because we saw it throughout the consultancies that I've been doing for many years, my other co-founders, we actually implemented not just a technical ability to simulate user actions or to simulate API calls, but actually we implemented to great extent the process. So we suggest you the entire process that you can use in your organization. And this process allows you both to bring different skill sets of testers on the same, to the same level or to cooperation and to the same table. And then it allows you to, whenever you run your test, it allows you to deliver the results in the way your organization is able to understand them. It means from business perspective, from tool chain, if you use Jira or use other ALM tools and so on and so forth. So the Oxygen is really about enabling a proper test automation to any size of organization, and it's completely free, it's open source, and it's carry over 15 years of experience with many companies that we help to establish test automation process and mechanism. So this is about Oxygen, about synthetic monitoring. So basically, I see that the quality process as a three-stage process. Okay, so the quality process, of course, starts on planning side. It's very important. But in modern world, when we live in agile world and in DevOps world, the planning is many times omitted. I mean, the classical planning when we would craft, a software documentation for hundreds of pages, it almost doesn't exist anymore. I mean, our mission is much more divided to the small chunks, usually sprints, and those chunks are rarely well documented. It's much more, we are at morning stand-up, we decide what we do today, we have an overall chunk of work we need to do, and let's start to do this work. I mean, we have more or less description, but it's not usually too much specific. And the same challenge, I think, facing the modern QA today, right? How you test something which is not 100% well defined, how you change something which can change, how you test something which can change in the next sprint or even in the next day. And so I divide, again, a quality assurance into three parts. First is how you create sustainable quality assurance, automated sprint or within your agile development cycle. So this is, I think, the first challenge, and this challenge consists of both, of course, tools that you need to support you and process and the mindset of organization. But this is the first vertical. The second vertical is actually when you execute the test, right? So you have all the tests, and now based on whatever trigger you have in your organization, it can be a nightly build, it could be a pre-commit build, it could be a weekly. Doesn't matter at the moment how often you run your test, right? But there is definitely some trigger when you want to run. And so the second challenge is how you run them in time efficient manner. So how you reduce the time your tests are running, and most important, how you analyze them in time efficient manner. So this is, I think, the second challenge and the second stage. And probably this is a stage where many modern organizations have their challenge, because many organizations today know how to create automation tests in time efficient manner, in more or less in line with their agile development process. But then many of them have challenged how I run it, how I manage those tests, and how I get results in time efficient mode. And the third one is now once we move our code, so we tested our code, it looks fine, we haven't found any defects, or we decided that some defects we can live with them. Now we move it to production. And there is a whole world of testing and quality assurance in production that many companies are not aware today, right? Because classical testers mindset is, okay, I tested everything, here's a version, I deliver it, I sign it, and now it's a problem of IT guys or operational guys to make sure it works in production. But in modern platform, it doesn't exactly work this way because the modern deployment is so complex and much more relies on different software parts, on third-party integration, on different services which might be developed within the same organization but by different stakeholders. Of tools that we saw is raising, and we as a company wanted to give solution. One of the first companies to give solution in this field is quality assurance in production. And CloudBeat Synthetic is all about actually moving your tests from your development stage to your production stage. And I think today we are one of first companies and probably one of only companies which allows you to take any type of test you have in your at your development stage and just run them as is in production. Saying that, it's not a big problem just to run the test in production. You could do it with any CI/CD tool. I think the big problem is that in production, you need to measure and you need to react slightly different to issues your tests might found than in the testing and development stage. Because in testing development stage, we usually look very short term. I mean, what interesting us is my build right now okay or not, right? And in production, it's a combination of course, real-time incidents or real-time defects that we could find, but also overall, over time experience. It could be a user experience, it could be a failure rate, it could be a failure severity, it could be measuring a third-party services, measuring internal services in different ways. So it's much more complex to measure and want to react in production than we do at testing or development stage. And so CloudBeat Synthetic is a tool which actually brings quality and brings automation testing to production and does it in a pretty innovative way and connects, eventually what's most important is connects developers, testers, and IT department or operational department all together. One platform that reflects quality matters in development stage, testing stage, and production. So this is basically three products we have. Oxygen, which is open source, CloudBeat Test, which is oriented on testing, analytics, and orchestration, and CloudBeat Synthetic, which is oriented on bringing testing and quality to production.
Okay, now I'm coming to our next question, which is about your professional designation. I have gone through your LinkedIn profile and I have seen you have developer experience, QA, sales and marketing experience. Could you please share about how you switched from each role and what is the journey and how is the situation happened to each role?
I mean, my journey started, I was, to be very frank, I was very lucky because I think I was in major, junctions of my career. I was in the right place at the right time. And not necessarily because I was so smart, but again, it was just, we can call it luck, or we it's just, whenever I decided to change my career, suddenly the right opportunity came. And by the way, this is advice to your audience. So it doesn't matter if you're a tester or marketing specialist or developer, right? I think you should listen to your heart. And, if you feel you need to change something, and sometimes you're not sure what you want to gain, but you feel that you need to change what you do right now, many times the opportunity will come. Just, you need to make the first move into the change. And so this is what happened to me. So I really I still love development. I sometimes write code. Unfortunately, I don't have much time to do it because I have company to manage, but I still, in my mindset and my spirit, I'm still a developer. So, I had amazing 6 years more, but I mean, commercially, I worked 6 years as a developer in various organizations and I enjoy every moment. And in the moment when I stopped enjoying it and I felt that something is wrong, I want to do other things. I never thought when I did these moves that I will go to testing or I will go to pre-sale and so on. I just said I want to change it, and opportunity came. Okay, and this opportunity happened to came from testing company. I knew nothing about testing before this. Okay, and so I was 2 years in this company. I learned a lot. I really shifted my mindset from purely being a technical guy, which, just can write a code, to being more business-oriented person, still technical, but business-oriented person, which understands that, you can't just write software, because the end game is that this software needs to be useful to someone, okay? It needs to bring value. And this is a very important change, which, by the way, I think crucial for tester. And many times, by the way, testers understand much more of the value of software they're testing to the customer and impact of the software on the customers and developers, which is very interesting, because when you're a developer, you're so much busy to just fulfilling development tasks that many times you don't have an opportunity and mindset to look around and see, well, let's see what I'm building, what impact it has on the customer, how it changed my customer, my users' day-to-day job. And so when I moved to sales or pre-sales, I suddenly started to see it, because I suddenly had to build a case of how our software, back then the testing software, helps our customers or new customers, right? And so I think it was an amazing journey in changing your mindset for purely writing a code to actually kind of selling, but again, not selling from number perspective, but selling from value perspective, which is very, very important. And then again, when I felt, I learned everything and I wanted to move on, then opportunity came. Again, I never thought I will become a consultant or I will open my business. I just wasn't sure what I want to do. I was sure I want to move on. And then again, opportunity came, right? So I was just open enough about, accepting the opportunity, okay? But I didn't necessarily plan it, okay? So it wasn't kind of master plan, that I planned for 10 years ahead. And so when opportunity came to handle one of back then Radvi's company and create a consultancy business around it, so I just accepted it. And so basically this is how my career has developed, has evolved. And the same with the CloudBeat. So with the CloudBeat idea came this and that software. Would it help you? Would it bring value? Are you happy to pay for it? And when I started to at least hear from more and more of my customer, yeah, it's a good idea. We're happy to pay for it if you deliver X, Y, Z. Then this is where I understood that this is a next opportunity that I want to pursue. So, I think, again, and I don't know how other careers are evolving, but my personal career, that it was pretty much the same, is just A, analyzing when something doesn't work for you and you want to move on, and B, being open for coming opportunities. And I think at least this is my way to success and moving further with my career.
Okay, that was a long journey of your career. And here there is a question from Ritik. Oxygen framework is open source, so it is totally free even for big organizations.
Yeah, it's completely free, no hidden costs, no premium features. We only offer support, of course, paid support if you like. I mean, we have a great community that you can always ask questions and get results. We have great documentation, so it's very easy to get started. We have YouTube channel with a lot of tutorials. We have there two hours tutorial getting started that I personally did. We have subject matter tutorials, for example, how to start with mobile test, how to start with web test, and so on. You can, it's totally free. There is no catch.
And coming to our next question, I have gone through your cloudbeat.io website, and there are some phrases and some quotes on the website which I have gone through. Finding defects before your customers do, which is a good quote. That is a very agreed one. And the second one is testing in production made right. Is it as a QA point of view? Is it best process to test on the production? Could you please share your opinion and thoughts about it?
Well, I think this is the new trend, okay? And I think overall it's I would say it's mandatory, but you need to graduate into it, okay? I will explain what I mean. So today, the line between development, staging, and production environment is really blurred. And the reason why is because more and more organizations are going to continuous deployment, right, process. And continuous deployment process is all about pushing changes quickly from development to production. Now, once you have it in place, your line is completely blurred. I mean, you do, of course, all the validation, everything, but your this your line between here's a cut really much more blurred. And this means that many times you need to carry on and keep testing production because sometimes you are not just able to have 100% coverage, and that's fine. This is a risk we take, and this is in continuous deployment. Many times you roll out things in a subset of your users, and this is very smart approach because the idea is that if you happen to have any defects that leaked into production, you can catch them on smaller group of users and will impact less users than if you will just roll it to everyone. So, I think the deployment way of whoever works with continuous deployment, the way he deploys is much more, ad hoc, much more difficult, and I would say challenging for testing. And you must bring the testing in production. And so I think testing in production slowly becomes a mandatory and quite a standard way, especially those who are in continuous deployment stage. And I think today more and more tools, and I'm happy that CloudBeat is one of the first tools to realize some operations that might change the state of real users. And so you need to do it carefully, but quicker you realize you have to do it, quicker you will have much more peace of mind and much more coverage when you deploy your stuff in production than if you just rely on your testing stage and say, hey, in production, it's all fine because I tested it and 100% valid. Another thing what's important to emphasize why testing in production is because, we classically, if you look at production's monitoring system, right? So any IT department has some monitoring stuff on their production. So classical monitoring software was focused on monitoring servers, right? I mean, if we just move back 10, 15, 20 years ago. So the biggest, I think, pain point and biggest challenge was, will my server keep running as a server, right? Or would I have it, fail, restarting? Would I have communication, network issues, and so on? Those were major issues, right? Today, because we have so much cloud infrastructure, which provides us great availability and great network latency, so mostly the challenge is not that my server will fall. And even moreover, today the modern platform have so good fail tolerance mechanism that even if one of your sales fails, nothing happened. You just redirect it to other servers. So suddenly the biggest problem today is not that if my server will fail, but the biggest problem today, would my customers have the same experience that I had in QA stage or development stage? Would they have the same experience in production? Because there are so many things that impacting our customer user experience, from third-party tools to internal submodules or microservices to network shortages, not on hosting level, but sometimes on customer level. For example, I'm accessing my application from mobile device, right? I might have different bandwidths when I move with my device and so on. So there are so many more aspects which are not covered by classical monitoring tools. And if not introducing testing in production, you can call it testing, you can call it synthetic monitoring, it's basically the same idea. But if you are not introducing testing in production, that you are simply blind from production perspective, because all your monitoring stuff doesn't cover what your actual user is experiencing. And this is absolutely critical for classical deployment mechanisms, and even more critical for continuous deployment. But they are critical for both, because even if I manually deploy my stuff to production, having a pre-production stage and so on, still I have a good chances that at some certain point of time, because some coincidences my user experience might be compromised, and it might be a defect. So it might be a total denial of service. I mean, I might be not able to do any action, or it might be something more particular. My page might load significantly slowly, or I'm not able to complete the checkout process, and so on. So this is why testing in production, I think it becomes a new norm, and we'll see it more and more in coming years. And I think quicker companies realize it, it will be, the transition to this will be much more easier. I mean, I think we as a testing community, I think we need to realize, and this I see a lot of testers are asking, especially manual testers, what next, how the testing profession as a tester going to evolve. And as I mentioned about my personal past, I think you guys need to be open for changes, and changes are coming, okay? So as you can see, the tester profession changing dramatically and very quickly, okay? And what I always recommend to my tester colleagues is be open to learn, be open to move on to some new stuff. So test automation, I think today every testing course or any testing training must learn, and any tester must know on basic, at least basic level. I'm not saying everyone needs to be expert in test automation, but for example, one of things every tester must learn is how you do some basic test automation, right? Another thing I think very important for tester is realizing key quality metrics in modern applications, because not just, I see on my screen something which I shouldn't see. It's much more than this, because we need to understand that in modern testing world, we also measure user experience, and user experience is not just about seeing or not seeing some information on your screen. It's much more complex. It's about performance metrics, it's about performance time, it's about hardware metrics if we are talking about mobile world, and it's about understanding what impacting user experience of our users. And so modern tester needs to have much wider technical understanding, technical knowledge, and understand how we measure in modern world, or how key stakeholders measure the success or failure of both application in general and versions or sprints that we are rolling out. And so I do encourage to all our listeners, to be open and to see tester profession as something that greatly changing in a good way, and just go ahead with this. I mean, just if you feel you do something which is not actual, or others around you already moved into more modern stuff, just go ahead and do it. API testing, mobile testing, test automation, performance testing. I think the days when tester just was an expert in his domain field, just could operate user interface test, I think it's over. I think tester required today to be much more much more multidisciplined in terms of being able to test end-to-end application, being able to spotlight performance issues, user experience issues, and so on and so forth. So I think it's important change, and I do encourage all of you to adapt to it. And I think tester profession is one of most exciting today in technical world. If you look around, you see that suddenly tester, it's really something that you can impact from planning perspective to actually, impacting your production environment. And take it as I think, as advantage of living in the world when so many changes are in this profession. I think it's very exciting time, and I think we should all learn to adapt. So I think this is my main message to our broader audience.
Thanks, Nachum, for sharing the message to the QA community. Hope everyone will listen the session on QA Tech Talks YouTube channel. And to coming to the end of the session, once again, thanks a lot for coming to the Lean Coffee Talk session and making it very engaging, and sharing your thoughts, ideas, and cloud testing, modern testing. And it's pleasure to meet you on the session here. We look forward to meet you in future as well. Once again, thank you and take care. Bye.